All right, we have been studying elements of art, and one of the elements of art is value. Today I'm going to give you a demonstration on different ways to create value when you are working on your art. One of the things that value will help you do is create shading, dimension within your art. It also is one of the elements that you can use to create form when you're drawing shapes. If you add value into the shape that you've drawn, you can create form. You can make your object look three-dimensional. Once you have seen some of these different techniques that I'm going to show you today, you are going to create a value chart for me. Value is, again, the lightness and darkness of an object that you see in a picture. I'm going to turn my paper sideways. I'll turn it all the way around first so you can see. This is our value chart. Now, as you can see, I have drawn 4 sections. They are not perfect. They're hand drawn. You can do this or you can do it a different way. It doesn't matter, just so long as you do it. The first thing I'm going to show you is hatching. When you use hatching to create value, starting from the darkest value going down to the lightest value, you are going to draw lines following the shape of whatever object it is that you are shading in. The darker you want your object, the closer together you're going to place your lines. So if you see this, this is pretty dark because my lines are side by side. Now, as my lines get farther apart, you can see my value is getting lighter. Another way that you can create value, and you may be noticing this in the video here, is that I'm also easing up on the pressure that I am applying to my pencil. The more pressure you apply, the darker you're going to get an object. So over here, I have not only have I placed my lines close together, but I did apply a lot of pressure. And as I go lighter, I ease up. I don't apply as much pressure. Alright? You can kind of hear that too if you listen. The lighter my pressure, the lighter the pencil strokes. Alright, that is an example of hatching. So I'm going to write that right on the top here. This is my hatching. Now we're going to do cross-hatching. Hatching is lines side by side. Now, if I was working on a round shape with hatching, if I was working on a circle, I would do the same thing, except my lines would follow the shape of the object. So with my circle, my lines are going to be curved. They're still side by side, but they're curved. This is still hatching. Okay? It's hatching because the lines are side by side. They don't cross each other. They are parallel lines. Alright? So now we're going to go on to cross-hatching, which, as you probably have guessed, means that you're going to cross some lines here. And again, the areas that you want darkest will be the areas that you place your lines closest together. So I'm going to start with this angle, and I'm getting lighter as I come out. And I'm going to come back, and I like to turn my paper. It's easier than turning my arm and contorting it. Alright, you are the artist, so you control your art. Don't let your art control you. Okay, so you see that? Did you also hear that? I'm working on a trunk, so the great thing about it is that you can kind of hear when I apply pressure and when I ease up on the pressure as well. Now with cross-hatching, you are going to see the lines that you've drawn, and that is okay. You don't need to have a smooth transition of the value here, alright, of the shading that you're doing to create the value. Alright, now that is cross-hatching. Cross-hatching, same deal with a round object. If you're working with a round object, or an object of some other shape, a cylinder, you're going to do the same thing. Your lines are always going to follow the shape of the object that you are shading. All right, see how that works? Okay. So you're going to cross hatch them. Now it gets a little bit more complicated with the cross hatching, but it's not anything that is ridiculously difficult. You can play with this and figure it out as you go. That's the point of this exercise, is that you can play with it and figure it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right the first time. All right, our next one that we're going to do is random hatching. Random hatching is very similar to cross hatching, except your lines are much smaller and they're random. Okay, you aren't keeping them parallel or perpendicular. They're just very random lines. So it's like the type of lines you would get if you were stippling and being really sloppy because you were in a hurry. Stippling is just dots. Random hatching tends to be a whole bunch of really short little lines. And the closer you put them together, the darker your image is going to get. Now, I am using a 4B pencil, which is a very soft lead. The higher you get in numbers with the B pencils, the softer the lead, which means you're not going to have to do as much work laying that graphite down on the paper and shading. That also means your pencil lead is going to get dull faster and you're going to have to sharpen it more often, okay? Which is not a big deal, but if you do that, if you have to sharpen your pencil, I would suggest you go off to the side of your paper and kind of dull the tip out a little bit so that you don't have really thin, really sharp lines that cut into your paper, because then you'll be able to see the difference and tell that you didn't have the same type of lead. Alright, real quick, I'm going to give you an example of stippling, and then you guys are going to work on doing this type of shading for me, okay? You're going to do a value chart and work on shading. I want to see a really good gradual progression like you see here, but I want you to go lighter than this. Alright, your stippling is your next one, and that is very much what it sounds like, dots. This is going to be the loudest one that you do, and I would suggest if you have a large area that you are shading and using stippling, which looks amazing, that you use a larger or broader tipped pencil or pen. All of these techniques you can use ink pens with, and I will show you that a little bit later, but right now I want you to focus on really getting this value, this shading technique down with a pencil. Any pencil will do. If you're just using a regular number 2 pencil, that will work just fine, okay? The regular number 2 pencils are HB pencils, which is right in the middle of the B and H. H leads are very hard leads, so you have to press down much harder to get really good dark areas. Again, like I said, B leads are softer, so the HB is right in the middle, and that is what most of your general number 2 school pencils are. They're HB pencils, so those will work just fine. That's probably actually the best place for you to start. Alright, so your stippling is your dots. Place them very close together to get it really dark, and then the farther apart you get, the lighter it will get. Your value. The lighter your value will get. Okay, I'm going to stop here for now. What I want you guys to do for me, and you will see this on your assignments on Blackboard, is to create a value chart for me. You do not have to make it look like this, but I want you to use all 4 of these different types of value. Hatching, cross hatching, random hatching, and stippling. I want to see that you have a really good grasp on these. Then we're going to start adding color to it as well as ink. It's a lot of fun, and once you get this technique down really well, you can do anything. You can fix any mistake that you think you may have made in a piece of art, and it will look phenomenal. Being able to shade and having a really good grasp on shading and creating value has saved so many of my pieces of art. You will love it. It's a lot of fun. Alright, so I will see you on the flip side.